This week, we have a marquee use case moving from another network to Hedera, but in my opinion, it's far from the biggest use case that we have news on this week. We also have interviews with some of the biggest builders in the Hedera space, including Dovu and Hashpack, and updates on more than a dozen other use cases in the Hedera space. Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, here once again bringing you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. But as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So we are going to get into Prove AI and Casper and the drama around all of that. I do want to say that if we do have any Casper fam in here that are coming to watch and see what's going on, I think we're kind of cut from the same cloth. We're both into utility, and if you are into utility in the DLT space, this is certainly the right place for you to be. We have so much going on in the Hedera ecosystem, and I think you're going to be pretty impressed, so stick around. Now, the first team we're going to get into today is SKUx. SKUx is a payments company that is initially focusing on coupons and promotions, and they're working with one of the Hedera Governing Council members, Mondelez. Mondelez is one of the biggest food companies in the world. It's Kraft plus a bunch of other ones. Think Chips Ahoy, Oreo, Nabisco, Cadbury, gum like Trident and Dentine. And they are planning on doing some pretty big things with SKUx. And we caught up with Bobby Tinsley. He is the CEO there at SKUx to tell us exactly what's going on. Bobby, welcome back. How things been?
Going well, man. Great to be back. How are you?
I'm doing really good. Now, you had some exciting news. SKUx announced the completion of phase one of your collaboration with Mondelez. Can you explain exactly what that announcement was about, and what does this mean for SKUx, Mondelez, and Hedera?
Sure. Yeah, no, it's super exciting set of weeks for us here. We announced with Mondelez the completion of phase one of the project. So just as a general update for everyone, we've been working with Mondelez for quite some time on powering payment-based offers alongside coupons and other types of offers and check reimbursements that they do to their consumers. And so this initial phase was taking that finally to the next step and posting those transactions to Hedera. And so we are live officially with a subset of those transactions. So think about the power of powering real-time payment-based offers on behalf of one of the biggest brands in the world, and then immutably tying that transaction to Hedera. It's actually happening. And so we announced that. It's the first phase of a multi-phase project that you've read in the release. So just super excited to make that milestone alongside Hedera and the Hashgraph Association. So big times, man.
Well, I'm going to change up the order of some of the questions that I was going to ask you, just because, you're talking about actually putting these transactions to the network. Mondelez is a huge company, and you're working with a lot of other big companies as well. What's your plan here for scaling and expansion?
It's a great question. I mean, I think we started just being very intentional about the problem that we're solving, the platform that we built. So scale comes from the start, building a platform that's architected to distribute offers, payment based on behalf of these partners like Mondelez, and then thinking through from a distributed ledger technology perspective, what network are we partnering with? How do we drive those transactions, both from a speed, from an efficiency standpoint, and also, just being able to do everything seamlessly for the consumer. Because at the end of the day, that's what wins, right? I mean, there were some stats that I was hearing earlier today. I mean, like 90% of these payments are being redeemed by these consumers. I mean, just powerful metrics, because if you think about it, in an offer ecosystem world, like, we're not walking in grocery stores, at least as the younger generation, with coupons stuffed in our pockets anymore. Everyone has their smartphone. And so we believe payments is the new paradigm for promotions. We're very aligned with Mondelez in that same initiative. And so scalability comes from getting the consumer value proposition correct, powering the right consumer experience on behalf of our partners. And then from a payment and Hedera perspective, they're built to scale. And so that's one of the beautiful things about what we do. If we do the front side of this right, the back end is just support that we already have in place. So yeah, we're very intentional here at SKUx. I know there's a lot of chatter in the community about what can this be, how big can it be. Anybody can look up Mondelez and understand the size and scope of their brand. We're not focused on what and how big it can be at this stage. We're really focused on just getting it right with them, and they've been an incredible partner. And the volumes and the scale comes when you get it right up front. So.
Love to hear that kind of focus. Now, you mentioned 90% of the promotions getting redeemed. Is that just digital promotions in general, or are you actually starting to see data from this use case?
That's data. Yeah, that's data in
Yeah.
terms of, if you think about, if you take a step back and you think about what we're doing, right? So we're powering a payment to a consumer's mobile wallet that they can use wherever that payment's accepted, or at the specific merchant that that payment's set up for, right? So if you think about the world of couponing and spray and pray and the lack of data, right? The ability to, a brand like Mondelez or others that we work with, they really don't see insight into where that coupon is or that check is when they disperse that to their consumer. We're empowering them to be able to not only send that to a consumer in a better way, but then actually extract data when it was redeemed. And so when we talk about percentages, like we're seeing stats as high as 90+% of the payments that actually go to that consumer actually being activated and redeemed. So now they can tie it full circle and say, I distributed this on behalf of whatever that was, whether it was a reactive or proactive promotion. And then they can actually tie through the fact that the consumer actually got it and used it, which is huge.
Yeah, that it's actually bringing value to the use case. So one of the things that caught my ear when I read your press release is Mondelez mentioned that this is just the beginning. What does the rest of your roadmap look like when it comes to working with Mondelez?
So it's a pretty big roadmap. I can't say everything publicly at this stage, but I am excited that this is a long-term approach, right? If we think about the things that we can publicly speak about, digital transformation, one of the most important things to Mondelez. They've gone on record to say that publicly, right? When we think about what we're doing right now, we started first with a POC, like we've talked about in other interviews, expanding that into production actually in the US, and then taking it outside of the US. So we're focused on international expansion. We have projects underway right now to do that in other markets outside of the United States, which is huge for us, obviously, as a company. Then tying in the Hedera connectivity piece, which is now officially active, taking some of those transactions and posting them to Hedera, expanding that over time as we continue to refine what data, how we share that data, all of those things that we've talked through. And then there's other use cases that have nothing to even do with what we're doing right now, right? Cross-border payments is one that's been publicly spoken about, right? There'll be lots of other things that we'll be able to tie in over time. But, we're just, again, trying to be really focused and also respectful of the roadmap and, the innovation journey. It takes a little bit of time. And so, they've been a great partner in that. So.
Well, that's one of the things that you've been adamant about is even though you're starting off with some of these promotions and coupons, you are a payments company, right?
Yeah. And I think that's some of the confusion, in the community. And I get it. Like, I totally understand, a coupon is just a coupon in name, right? In terms of a lot of people, we all understand what that is. But there's a very big difference between a coupon, which is an IOU in the retail world. It's a piece of paper in physical form or even in digital form. It's still a digital IOU. And then we think about payments. When I think about, I pull out my plastic Visa or MasterCard, or I use my Apple Pay on my phone to make a payment, that's actually tender. And so we're not a coupon company, we're a payments company. And so when we power payments, we don't actually have to leverage the existing coupon rails, the existing standards that exist in coupons, the legacy clearing and settlement process that is in the coupon industry. This is a completely different paradigm shift in terms of how brands and retailers can drive value that's not tied to any of the legacy requirements that are there today. So that's sometimes where the confusion comes. Like, we'll talk about it like a coupon, but it's actually very, very different in what we're doing. It's a different type of technology that SKUx has been, building and patenting for many years. So
it's true innovation. Now, one of the other things I wanted to ask you about, all we've heard about publicly when it comes to the Hedera tech stack part of SKUx is Mondelez. And you might not be able to give specific names, but can you talk about any of the other partners that are potentially interested in using that Hedera portion of your tech stack?
We have made an announcement recently alongside Visa and some of the work that we're doing with them, right? So when you think about large payment networks, and I'll kind of, stop there. There are large payment networks that are looking to drive significant value through our solution that we're working with right now. There's other global CPG brands that are also seeing the innovation and seeing the transformation that's happening right now, especially from a digital perspective. So, some of those we'll announce over time. But there are many others that we're working with that also see the value of DLT for what we're doing with it, right? I think, and you and I have talked about this before, Brandon, there's a reality of the ledger and what can be driven from a traceability and a transparency perspective, nothing to do with crypto, that is very powerful where we are in retail today. I think, the idea, we've been thinking about this since we started the company. The time has come now because the retail ecosystem's kind of caught up to this. And a lot of it is just external factors that are being, driven, right? I was with Mondelez at the United Nations a few weeks back talking about global blockchain standards and how that applies from a CPG perspective, right? When you think about sustainability and you think about, all of the things that have to be managed that only digital ledgers can accomplish, right? In terms of provability of all of these different things, some of them that have nothing to do with SKUx. But I think that whole wave is pushing the retail ecosystem to really start leveraging the power of distributed ledger technology and blockchain in the way that we actually can, solve real problems. So that's exciting for us because we've been preaching this for a long time. So you keep saying the same thing over and over, others start saying it with you. So it's kind of cool.
There you go. It's absolutely music to our ears, and we couldn't agree with you more. Bobby, is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
Just appreciate the support as always, Brandon. Very, very exciting times ahead. And hello, future for all of us. Let's go.
There you go. Thank you so much for building on Hedera, and good luck in the future.
Thanks, bud.
So you can't do much bigger than that, but we're going to try. The next thing we're going to get into is a consortium that Hedera joined called Blockchain for Energy. The reason why we're so focused on this, and I'm paying an awful lot of attention to what they're doing, is some of the other names that are involved with this. It includes Exxon and Chevron, Schlumberger, Saudi Aramco, Chesapeake Energy, and the list goes on. But where the list doesn't continue is other Layer 1 networks. Hedera is the only Layer 1 network, despite not being a blockchain at all. And we got a pretty exciting announcement around this week. So Blockchain for Energy was excited to announce that Exceed Geoenergy has adopted the groundbreaking Blockchain for Energy carbon platform as part of a strategic power purchase agreement with a major Texas utility company. By embracing B4E carbon technology, Exceed Geoenergy is revolutionizing how it manages carbon-negative geothermal power generation, while setting a new standard for environmental claims management and carbon credit monetization. And to give you some more information on what Exceed Geoenergy is, they started as an oil and gas company that has moved completely into the clean energy vertical. The press release goes on to say, as global industries face increasing pressure to reduce carbon footprints and meet strict regulatory requirements, Exceed Geoenergy's adoption of B4E carbon marks a pivotal step in advancing sustainability and profitability. Powered by Innovate AI and underpinned by Hedera Hashgraph's distributed ledger technology, B4E Carbon offers a secure, tamper-proof solution for tracking and reporting carbon removal and renewable energy production. By adhering to Interwork Alliance standards, the platform ensures integrity in data, dramatically reducing the risk of fraud and double counting, critical factors for stakeholders and regulators alike. Now, because of those huge names that are involved and the impact they could have on the Hedera network, I'm going to stay laser focused on this use case, and the main thing that I want to see is some of those big names getting directly involved. All right, so the next thing we're going to get into is Prove AI, which used to be Casper Labs, moving over to Hedera. Now, I can imagine for the Casper community how frustrating this might be, and I really feel for them. Now, the Casper network is going to continue on. That is mentioned in the interview that we have coming up, and we're going to check that interview out with Charles Adkins. I did post this independently, so if you've already seen it, you can skip ahead about 8 minutes, but after that, we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Charles, welcome back. I know it's really early where you are, so we appreciate you giving us some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good to be on with you, Brandon.
All right, so Charles, I'm going to dive right into these questions. Let's start off with some broad strokes. What exactly was announced yesterday around the migration of Prove AI, formerly Casper Labs, to Hedera?
Yeah, so Prove Holdings is the name of the company, which was formerly Casper Labs. They have their flagship product, which is Prove AI, running perfectly fine on the Casper network, and they, had some discussions with Hedera and made the decision, maybe the Hedera technologies actually works pretty well with this front end that we built. So let's have a discussion about migrating this product over to the Hedera platform. So, really, really excited to have them on board, actually.
Well, it's something that's completely new as far as I know in the crypto space, so it is a pretty big deal. Now, as you mentioned, the Prove AI press release did discuss their commitment to their signature AI governance product. Can you explain what exactly that is and how it's going to be using Hedera?
Yeah, I mean, one of the key features of that is as you're training large language models or any kind of AI model around this, you want to have the ability to kind of lock in the data sets that you input into these AI models, essentially giving it like a version control. So if there's any error in the model, you can go back and remove a token. So essentially, you're tokenizing each piece of data going into a model. Then as you lock the model, it actually locks as an NFT. And maybe eventually in the future we'll see people with who are just verified experts at building AI models actually buying, selling, and trading on AI model marketplaces, and that would be traded as an NFT. It is really interesting though, because one of the key reasons that they wanted to have the discussion with Hedera is that it's the transaction fee being fixed and low. When you're talking about the amount of data that goes into these AI models, it makes it really difficult when you can't do any cost modeling on what the future may look like, and just the intensity of the amount of data going in and tokenizing each piece of that on other networks. It really starts to become cost prohibitive.
That makes perfect sense. And one of the big issues with AI is around IP. It's around, how do you compensate the people that are actually creating this stuff in the first place that then you go on to create completely new works? Do you think this could address some of those issues as well?
I really think it could. I mean, the front end of the system is very much the traditional, what a general normie would consider a SaaS platform. So you sign up for an account, you log in. Right now, it's only available for enterprises, but eventually the scale to the consumer space of if you want to create your own chatbot or AI agent, you do this, lock it in, and it's essentially a monthly subscription platform, and it makes using AI and creating your own models very simple. And if you're the one creating them, you have the ability to lock that IP, shows as an NFT, and that you own and created the NFT.
It could be really, really impactful. So now we're going to get into a little bit of a touchy subject. I'm not sure how much you're going to be able to go into it, but Casper is a separate DLT protocol and network, and it will continue on after this. Do you have any insights as to how this announcement might impact its future, the Casper token holders, or the rest of their community?
Yeah, I mean, Casper token holders are actually being very much empowered now. So the Casper network, like you said, it's going to be continuing. They are a Swiss association, so they have the ability to basically enact on-chain voting for all their community members and token holders. So any on-chain changes to the network, any major changes to the overall development and course of the technology, all the token holders, and it is a weighted stake vote. So, the big holders get to vote on the future of the network. They do have kind of a proxy, generally assembly person, which is a Swiss term for, just someone that votes on behalf of. But that person essentially is mandated to vote exactly how the community votes landed online or are on chain. So, it's really turning into a community empowered network. And it's going to be really interesting to see. The Casper network did an AMA, I think, on October 10th. It is on their website, and they went through a lot of the details on kind of the future of the technology and how they plan to govern the network going forward. So I think they've got some pretty exciting things for their community. It's really going to be a community voiced run network now.
Well, that's good to hear. And of course, we wish them the best. We know the future is going to be an interoperable world, so there might be certainly potential for collaborations there in the future. Now, another thing that was mentioned is that Prove AI is going to be receiving a grant. We do that on a regular basis through all the different foundations and everything else. What does the balance of assets versus liabilities that Hedera is taking on look like in this deal?
Yeah, I mean, this is really just a typical grant. This is no different of, we're not hiring employees or hiring the Prove AI team. This is Prove AI came to us, had a discussion, went through a grant application process, had some very, very thorough due diligence for many, many months. So, kudos to everyone who kept this under wraps for so long, but it's been going on for a while. But I would say it's a general grant. So it's a general grant, and it's over a 7-year term. So it's spread out for an extremely long time, exclusive to Hedera. really no liability of hiring or bringing people on or anything from their balance sheet.
Understood. And I mean, that is something that comes up, but this is just a use case, just like all the other use cases that we've provided funding to. So it makes perfect sense. So is there anything else around this announcement that you'd like to clarify or share?
I think that we're just excited. I mean, the Prove AI team they obviously did the announcement at the IBM Tech Exchange yesterday in Las Vegas. They've got multiple dozens of enterprises in their pipeline already. A couple of them already signed. It's really interesting to see the transition of the industry where people are really going to market with enterprise grade SaaS platforms, that model, subscription model, with additional services, and just kind of obfuscating the fact that the DLT or the blockchain runs in the background. They're not going to market overtly saying, because this blockchain is here, this happens. It's, AI data and governance is a really big deal. The EU AI Act coming into play next year. This is the type of product that enterprises are going to be looking to bring in because it's going to help them stay compliant. And then with Hedera running in the background, obviously fixed cost, low cost, you can put as much data into that AI model as you want, and it's not going to be cost prohibitive like it will on other chains. So there's just a lot of exciting potential around Prove and the Prove AI team. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the Prove AI team have actually been HBAR holders for many years too, which, I found interesting. It was kind of, news to me, but they've always been interested in the network too. So there is some long-term alignment that has been there.
Well, the individual costs could be low, but obviously the scale of what we're talking about with AI could be really impactful for the Hedera network. We appreciate you doing this completely new thing with the Hedera network and getting this deal through. And we also appreciate you coming on here today and giving us the inside track.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Now, the frustrations around this are certainly bubbling up on social media, and I can certainly be empathetic towards the Casper community, but I really hope there is some really good things to come forward from this. And as Charles said, it seems like there could be some good things coming in the future for them. But this really does raise the question as to how founders can move on. In the normal business world, we could see people just leave, we could see retirement, we could see bankruptcies, but we really don't have the structure for this in the crypto space. And hopefully there will be some regulation or some guidance that comes out that helps guide teams a little bit more and guide founders on how to do this in an appropriate way. Now, we have been getting some warnings from the Casper community saying that Prove AI really hasn't delivered to this point, but maybe some of the reasons why they were struggling will be solved with this move to Hedera. I'll also say that this is just one use case in a broad portfolio Hedera has, so it's no different from the undeniable risk that's taken whenever a new use case is supported. What I see with Prove AI is similar to what we saw with MasterCard Provenance. Running a DLT network is hard and wasn't core to MasterCard's business, and they decided to sunset that platform. The biggest user of MasterCard Provenance, Fresh Supply Co., and others have now moved on to Hedera. This is what I see with Prove AI. The team became more focused on their AI governance platform and really needs to focus on their passion. Now, that's not to undermine any of the grievances that the Casper community might have. I just don't know enough about it to really speak to it. But I do want to go on to the Hedera community who might not know exactly what Prove AI is. I know Charles had a pretty good explanation there, but I do have a clip that explains it in some more detail.
Artificial intelligence has emerged as perhaps the most transformative technology on the market today. Its potential future is nearly limitless, and it's already impacting the ways we live and work. However, current AI systems are limited by the black box problem. With few exceptions, there is very little visibility into the way AI systems are trained, making their results difficult or impossible to analyze. When an AI output exhibits bias or misinformation, we have little to no way of understanding how and where in the process it was fed data that led to an undesirable outcome. Understanding how blockchain complements artificial intelligence is key to safely unlocking the next wave of responsible AI innovation. So what does this mean in practice? At its core, AI is a set of decision gates that assign weights to incoming data in order to produce a desired outcome. When you're not able to see the data and understand what's being weighted and how, you encounter the black box problem. That's where we are today. Because of the scale and complexity involved, we often don't know why an AI model weights data the way it does. and it's prohibitively difficult, if not impossible, to retroactively analyze or audit training data and improve AI-driven outcomes. This puts considerable limits on AI's near-term potential and inhibits responsible development of the technology. How blockchain augments AI. When a blockchain is paired with an AI, it does three things uniquely better and more cost-effective than any other technology. 1. A blockchain provides a tamper-proof, transparent ledger. Anyone can view the specific data and its resulting weights flowing in and out of the training environment. 2. Blockchains are highly serialized and time-stamped. If an AI demonstrates signs of hallucination or inherent biases, you can simply roll the AI system back to a recent iteration that lacked those issues and subsequently diagnose where the problem data came from. 3. A blockchain serves as a secure, decentralized, and externalized system from the AI itself. This means the blockchain can safely act as a place for multiple owners, or even the public commons, to co-own, govern, incentivize maintenance and training, or even shut down the AI. Now that you understand how blockchains can provide a tamper-proof ledger for training data, a serialized record of versions, and an externalized system of checks and balances, you might be wondering how to set such a pair up. Casper Labs is developing the ideal hybrid blockchain solution for governing AI. With Casper, you can spin up completely private blockchains with custom parameters while also offering a fully public environment and the security benefits that come with that. This allows you to realize the uniquely powerful security benefits of public blockchains while maintaining requisite levels of data privacy and efficiency that come from private blockchains. If you're looking to safely and efficiently explore the intersection of blockchain and AI, reach out to Casper Labs so we can help you realize the power of responsible AI.
So I really do appreciate Charles coming on and explaining that shift. He also made an appearance on Nasdaq to talk about real-world assets and other things that Hedera is doing. And this comes just a week after Greg Bell from the HBAR Foundation also showed up on Nasdaq. So it's good to see us making some inroads in these traditional financial media outlets. And sticking with traditional finance, Crypto Observer, one of the Hedera community members, highlighted something from Graham Rodford. Of course, Graham is the CEO of Archax, who has tokenized funds on Hedera from both BlackRock, Aberdeen, and I believe Fidelity. So let's listen to a quick snippet from Graham.
I'm passionate about crypto. A lot of the institutions want to focus on securities, but I think everyone's missing a bit of an overlap there. Like, what are these cryptos paying the gas? If you believe in public blockchains, as I do, if you think every security in the world, let's say, is going to be on Ethereum, Hedera, Ripple, wherever in the future, you need the gas. So if you think every security in the world is going to be on chain, as I do, then you must see that that's a bull case for buying the underlying. So, I'm not shilling any of the underlying. I'm just saying it's not just that these are crypto monies and they're not like meme coins or utility tokens where you can argue, or governance tokens. Is there a value? Is there not? Like, people will need these in the future to pay for their transactions. And I'm arguing that every financial transaction in the world is going to be on chain in the future. So I'm a big believer. I think they need to coexist. And, to say we're not doing crypto to believe in digital securities doesn't really make sense to me.
So it was great to hear that from Graham. It's certainly different from what I normally hear from enterprise-focused representatives talking about their use cases. Normally, they are just focused on their use case. They aren't talking about the value proposition for the underlying DLTs and their respective cryptocurrencies. So I love to hear that. And of course, he mentioned Hedera because they're leveraging it a fair amount. Now, before we get out of the serious stuff, I do want to talk about something that's coming out of the Middle East. Now, this was highlighted by one of the most active Hedera community members out there, Kimchi-HBAR, and it's around something that we've talked about in the past, and that's the DIFC courts. And they actually had a pretty big launch event there in Dubai. And the head of digital and data at the DIFC said, "I'm proud to share the launch of the Digital Assets Will by DIFC Courts. It's a first of its kind solution in the world. As we increasingly live in a digital-first era, managing and safeguarding digital assets has become critical. From cryptocurrencies like ETH and Bitcoin to NFTs and other digital holdings, individuals need a secure and flexible way to ensure these assets are distributed according to their wishes. Built on Hedera and using a non-custodial wallet, the Digital Assets Will offers individuals complete control over their digital wealth during their lifetime. This unique solution empowers users to reallocate assets to their beneficiaries, maintaining full mobility and security throughout. And when the time comes, these assets will be seamlessly transferred to their chosen heirs, all while ensuring privacy and compliance with global standards. So we know that Dubai is a hotbed for digital assets, and it's good to see Hedera continuing to get a foothold in that region. All right, so let's now get into some fun stuff. First, we're going to get into the Dead Pixels Ghost Club mint that we talked about last week. Not only has it been successful for them, but it's also been really successful for our premier NFT marketplace, SentX. And this is just secondary sales. It doesn't include the revenue from the initial mint. But just on SentX, in just over 24 hours, they had over 1.2 million HBAR in sales for the Dead Pixels Club alone. So a huge congratulations, not just to Dead Pixels, but also to SentX. We're going to stick with NFTs and we're going to move over to Kabila. Kabila provides all kinds of toolings for NFT creators out there and their collectors. Now, they just launched their much anticipated plazas. We've talked about it in the past, but now it's actually hitting the Hedera mainnet. I can't do it nearly as much justice as Jack, who is on their team, so check it out.
Welcome to Kabila Plazas, a first of its kind social-fi app built on Hedera, where creators can build and manage their tokenized communities and NFT holders can get access and engage with their favorite NFT projects. In this video, I'm going to show you around so you can all get the most out of plazas. We're going to start by logging in with our HBAR wallet. Now, the first thing you're going to see is the news feed, which is essentially going to show you the most recent posts from the plazas that you are a part of. You will see here on the left, it says joined plazas. This means that I hold at least one or more NFTs of these projects, which give me access to their plazas. For example, let's check out the Kabila Plaza, shall we? And let's go step by step. We see the description of Kabila, the amount of holders, and then we see the feed here of posts. This is the first post that Kabila's put out. So you can see it has kind of like a blog posty, long format style to it. As you can see, quite a few community members have left a comment already. Let's leave a comment, shall we? And there's my comment. So as you can see here on the left, there's a tipping option, so we can actually tip. So there's the option to tip replies, but also comments to those replies. So on Explore, we can see all of the plazas that are currently available on the platform. So let's check out a plaza that I don't hold an NFT of, for example, Nico. As you can see, it says locked, right? I can't access this content. It tells me to purchase a pass. What does that mean? It means that I need to hold one of Nico's passes, his plaza pass, right here, in order to access this content. So within the Explore feature, you can have a look around at the different plazas, the different projects, what I could potentially get access to by holding one of their passes, but you won't be able to see it. You'll have to go ahead and purchase the pass in order to get access. Next up, we have notifications. So whenever you receive a reply or a tip, you will get notified. Then we have the post button, which we are very familiar with from social media platforms. The first thing I'll need to do when creating a post as a plaza is to choose which passes get access, which NFT holders get access to this particular post, right? Is it just one of them? Is it both? So we want to check those boxes based on the access that we want to give. And for now, the way the communities are going to engage is through these posts. So the plazas are going to put out posts, and then the community can engage in the comments, in the replies, kind of like a forum, like Reddit kind of style, where, you know, people engage in conversation around a particular topic, around a particular post. If I wanted to, in the future, create a plaza, I would have the ability here. For now, it's invite only. So if you're a project and you'd like to set up a plaza, please reach out to the Kabila team and we'll send you over the form. Like I said, in the near future, this will be something that you'll be able to do yourself on the platform. It's just for this initial version that it's invite only. I hope you enjoy this first iteration of the plazas. We always invite feedback from the community to improve the platform. We want to know what features you like, what features you don't like. And with that being said, have fun, engage with your favorite NFT communities, and let's build the future of SocialFi together.
So now we're going to move on to DeFi. One of the first lending platforms on Hedera is going to be Bonzo Finance, and they're going to be launching on Monday the 28th, so just a few days away. Now, we're going to catch up with Brady next week for the full rundown of what's going on, but if you want to catch up with the latest on Bonzo, I suggest going to check them out on X as they go through this launch. The next team that I want to get into is Davinci Graph. Davinci Graph provides tooling for teams that are issuing HTS tokens, so fungible tokens on the Hedera network. They already have a pretty darn good suite of tools out there, including ways you can lock up your tokens and so forth, but what they just launched now is a Snapshot tool. So this is used for things like airdrops. They already have a really good tutorial out there, so we're going to check that out real quick.
Introducing Davinci Graph Snapshot Service, the most advanced snapshot tool in the crypto world. Filter accounts, allocate tokens, and take snapshots, all in just a few clicks. These snapshots can be used for airdrops, whitelisting for private sales, or other purposes. Davinci Graph snapshots consist of two important parts. First, accounts are filtered based on rules defined by the snapshot creator. Then, if allocation strategies are applied, the snapshot calculates how many tokens each filtered account should receive based on those strategies. This process happens when the snapshot is taken, ensuring everything is transparent and publicly verifiable. Let's look at this snapshot that is taken for an airdrop event. Here you can see eligible accounts, filter rules, allocations, and involved tokens. You can review eligible accounts for receiving the airdrop, check the amount of airdrop they get, and the tokens they hold. Also, you can search an account here or download the snapshot data in JSON or CSV file. Everyone can easily check and verify how they became eligible by reviewing the rules set by the snapshot creator. This ensures that participants can clearly see why they qualified. In addition, they can understand how their allocation was calculated based on the specific strategies used. The entire process is designed to be transparent, showing exactly how the distribution amounts were determined for each eligible account. Davinci Graph Snapshot Service offers many other features. You can learn more on topics like taking a snapshot, setting filter rules, and using allocation strategies. This is Davinci Graph Snapshot Service, making your snapshots simple, clear, and transparent.
So you guys know how much I like HBAR weighted airdrops, and I think we have more of those that are going to be coming down the line. We have some really big teams that are looking at doing HBAR weighted airdrops, so this tooling could be really handy for them in the future. So the next team we're going to get into is one of the biggest and most talented in the space. We have Hashpack. I have May from Hashpack. She is the CEO, and she certainly didn't disappoint with this interview. May, welcome back. Thanks for hopping on.
Hi. Good to be back.
Yeah, it's always good to have you. You guys have been doing an amazing job for the Hedera ecosystem. But to kick this off, I just want to kind of get a baseline. Can you just tell us where Hashpack stands as a wallet and as a general business?
Yeah, sure. We're still the number one wallet on Hedera. We still have like pretty much all of the active retail users. I will caveat that I also count Karate Combat users as retail users, and there's a Venn diagram of us and Karate Combat, and so I would say we don't have all of the users anymore because Karate Combat's been killing it, but we've got all the retail users, the DeFi users that are coming in and doing NFTs, tokens, things like that. So we still have a very good hold on that. And I think our community is very happy with us. So we've been really killing it on that front, doing a bunch of engagement stuff, doing a bunch of marketing, and just getting the community involved. From a business standpoint, we're also just like really good. Our team is super solid. It's small, but we are all very, skilled, and we work very hard. It's actually nice to be part of a team where you don't have to like check in on everybody. I just like hear about, oh, Nick's been doing this on the side and David's been doing this on the side, and things just get done. They take their own initiative, and that's what makes Hashpack such a great product for the community. So we're doing really, really good.
Oh, it sounds like it's a well-oiled machine. So your token pack has seen a lot of success lately. Can you tell us why you launched that token and what it's going to be used for?
Sure. I think mostly we wanted a way to engage with our user base and to get people excited, to get people like enjoying using the wallet. And so it's at its most basic, it's a loyalty and customer engagement kind of token. It's a utility token where the more you do things in Hashpack, the more that you'll get rewards. And that's like loyalty rewards, just like any other app. So like if you swap tokens inside of Hashpack, you get pack as a reward. We call that pack back rewards. We hope that we can push pack back rewards to other parts of our like services and things like that, just to give back to the community and reward you for, being active in the Hedera ecosystem. Aside from that, we have plans to sort of like make a functional economy out of it, like inside of the Hedera ecosystem. So like you should be able to buy things with pack inside of Hashpack. We've got a lot of cool things that are coming up that will make use of pack. Recently, we've launched staking, which is also a mechanism that I'm sure we'll talk about soon. But overall, it's just a way to engage with our users and make it more fun,
Yeah, well, we might as well go right into the staking. We've seen a lot of, engagement around staking. You also had a big airdrop a couple weeks ago for Karate. Can you talk about those things, talk about your thoughts on tokenomics, not just for Pack, but for the broader HTS ecosystem and maybe even HBAR?
Sure. Let's start with Pack and then move to Karate.
Sure.
So with Pack, we added in staking as a way to distribute Pack tokens to the community. And basically, it's like if you actively stake your pack, you're going to get rewards for staking it. And right now, the APR is 5%. We have set a stable, constant 5% for the foreseeable few years. That's just not going to change. So it keeps it really simple for people who are staking their pack. And basically, if you are looking at tokenomics, if you're looking at how pack works as a token, there's a big amount that's locked up in a treasury, and it's vested over time. And this is very common with pretty much every single token because it's a constant supply. So I think there's 1 billion pack tokens that are minted, and there won't be any more. It's impossible to mint them. And they vest over time. So they come into circulation over time. And we don't do anything with that pack, specifically in the community pool. And so the community pool is our way to engage with the community and to market to the community and to do things that, activate the community in different ways. And so part of that vesting goes into the pack rewards, right? So that's how a lot of the pack right now goes into circulation. Another way is the pack back rewards that I mentioned. So yeah, that's kind of like how it is. So if you are actively participating in our ecosystem, if you're actively staking your pack, getting XPack tokens, which is what the liquid staking token is, then that XPack token will increase in value over time, 5% every year. And that comes from the vesting distribution of the tokens. So it's actually pretty simple when it comes down to it. You put in your pack, whatever you have, and then a year later, it's worth 5% more. So that's that. And it's actually been really great. The community's been really excited about it. We have I think we were at 46%, maybe even over 50% of circulating supply of pack that is now that is now staked to the staking contract. So that just tells me that our users are really in tune with what we're doing and really supporting what we're doing. And, they get a little bit of rewards for it as being part of our community. So I think that, yeah, it's a really good look for us to see such a positive and supportive community.
Well, you're talking about the pack back rewards and incentivizing people to do other things within the Hedera ecosystem. Can you give some examples?
Well, specifically, Packback is our product name for if you're doing something inside of the wallet, then we give you back pack as part of the action. So, for example, when you swap inside of the wallet, there's a certain amount of fees that go into the swap just through the smart contract. We give you a percentage of those fees back in PAC. We have a service called Secure Trade. And right now you do a trade and you trade your NFT for your tokens or whatever for HBAR. And that's been like the case, just flat. That's a service and we don't charge anything for that, or we charge a very small amount, like a fraction of a percent. But later we hope that we can add in PAC back rewards so that when you do your secure trade, you'll also get PAC in addition. Hopefully we'll be able to roll it out into our on-ramps and other features that we have going forward. So that's one way. But we also have done things with the community where we've incentivized them participating in various things and given PAC as a reward, although we try to be very, very specific about how we do PAC giveaways because we don't want to overinflate the supply or anything like that. So we're very careful about that, but we want to make sure that we add value to the active users of Hashpack, which could bring us straight into the Karate Combat giveaway. Which is 2 weeks ago now, I think. We had a 50 million karate giveaway, which is gigantic. I think it's one of the largest that I've heard of by a lot. And it's great because we have such a great relationship with the Karate Combat team. And we did it as a commemoration of the web app now being able to support Hashpack. So now you can connect Karate Combat to your Hashpack and then do your betting, do your voting, all of that jazz inside of Hashpack, which you could already do inside of the Karate app itself, which is their curated experience. But if you want to do DeFi stuff on top of that, then having it in your Hashpack is very convenient. So we did a 50 million karate giveaway that was PAC weighted. 70% was given away to people who had PAC based on how much PAC that they held. And it was actually really successful. We had so many people sign up for it. We gave away PAC to over 16,000 accounts, I think, which is huge. We gave away karate to over 16,000 accounts. There was also a small amount that was for participating in the giveaway itself, and you didn't have to hold anything for that. And there was also a portion that was given away for people who held our INO NFTs as our kind of largest value users that just said, hey, for participating with us, for being there with us on our PAC journey, here's also a airdrop if you sign up. And, what I am really curious about is to see how many of our users have gone and taken that airdrop, continue to bet, continue to engage with Karate Combat, because that's really the goal here is yeah, sure, you get free tokens, but what do those tokens do? They bring you onto the Karate Combat app, and then they get them engaged in Karate Combat, which I heard you talking to Solomon just earlier about that. And you're a huge fan. And I hope that we can bring other people to karate as well through that kind of engagement.
I did get a little bit of that drop. I think you guys did a great job with it. And for some reason, it feels like Karate Combat and Hashpack just fit together. It seems like you guys have similar brands for some reason. I don't know if it's the theme colors or whatever it might be, but you guys are working really well together. And of course, you've been a star on Karate Combat already.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of, I sent a glove to you for Twigital, but has that been sent back?
I could certainly send it back. Jesse has it right now.
No.
We used it. We used it a couple times for some promotions.
Yes,
it is still floating around. He has it. We can get it back to you whenever you'd like. Maybe
it's fine because I have another one here. So the one that you have is signed by me, and it's the one that I fought in Karate Combat with.
Yeah.
But if you're using it as promotions for Twigital and stuff, I think that's fantastic. So no rush on that.
Very safe, very safe. Don't worry about that. I also got a few questions from the community. So the first one was around Project X. I haven't heard too much about Project X, but I was wondering if you could give us some insights.
It's a cheeky little thing that we put in our roadmap. And it's a thing that we've been working on for a while. I would say probably seriously in the last 6 to 8 months, we've been working on it. But it's been in kind of brainstorming mode for at least a year and a half. It's something that we're very excited to bring to people. And I'm not allowed to say anything. I had a chat with our team before this. I'm not allowed to say anything specific, but I will say that it has something to do with creators in the Hedera ecosystem. We want to engage with people who are building communities. We want to make it more fun, more rewarding. We want to make it so that people can find more ways to sort of use their NFTs or show off their NFTs, things like that. So that's kind of Project X. And I also want to caveat that we're not trying to do anything like start a marketplace or a launchpad or anything like that, because we find that, it's great that we have such a broad ecosystem where there are platforms that are doing that for us, and we partner with them and we integrate them into our apps. So like you could buy NFTs off of SentX inside of the wallet, and you can participate in launchpads inside of the wallet, and we hook into those launchpads on Hedera. So something on top of that, but I can't say more. But it's exciting. It's exciting. Also, it will use PAC. Maybe not the very first iterations, but it's something that also is one of the utility cases of PAC token. And so we've been really working hard on that.
Well, when you can give us some more information, we're going to have to get you back. I do have another set of questions. They were just around the future of Hashpack, asking if you're planning on going multi-chain, if you're focused more on retail or enterprise. I know even enterprises have used Hashpack to this point. So what has you most excited in the months to come and going into 2025?
Well, what has me most excited is the sort of buildup of excitement, buildup of development on Hedera that I've been seeing over the summer. It's kind of, a lot of it has been behind the scenes. Teams that, reach out and say, we're building this and we're excited, but it's not going to come out until whatever, Q4 or Q1. And they don't make any announcements because they're really trying to build something. So I get to hear a little bit of alpha on that, and I don't say anything, but I see that there's just interest in Hedera and people are building. And when those projects come live, then we try to shout out and make everybody excited about it. So I think that there's a lot of, specifically in the retail space, a lot of things that are coming out. And I'm sure that our community will jump on everything that comes out and spread the word, and be positive about it and, spread hype when that time comes. For Hashpack, you asked if we are going multi-chain, and I've answered this many times. It's actually one of the biggest questions that I get, especially on the business side. And so I'll say basically what I say to people who are looking at it, even from a business partnership kind of thing, is that we are a very Hedera-focused team. We really like the tech. Unironically, we like the tech. We like building on Hedera. It's great. We think the developer experience is great, and we wish that more people knew that the developer experience was so good. And we just want to develop this ecosystem as well. So I think in terms of our small focus team, this is really taking all of our attention. We have no eyes going elsewhere. But on a business side, since I'm the CEO, I have to look at other possibilities. I have to, see if there is chance for us to move cross-chain one day. And the answer, I think, is that it's a maybe. It really depends on if we can find synergies within Hedera going to other chains. I think that if there's a platform that is like, we support Hedera and other chains, and it would be great if you could support our asset on multiple chains, and there's something really solid there, I think that might be an opportunity for us to move over to somewhere else and support that. But in terms of just moving straight to another L1 and saying, hey, we now support ETH, or now we support Solana with nothing else there, I don't think that that's very likely. And the reason is that Hashpack as a team, as a product, is very community focused. And we put a lot of emphasis on having the connections with the retail users and having connections with the builders and the developers in the space. And when you move to a new ecosystem, all of that is new. So you really need somebody who can get in there and meet all the developers and, partner with the dApps. And you need somebody who can talk to the community and understand what they need and what they're excited about, and then build that product in order to cater to that, right? And I think that we're not the team that just supports an asset or L1 and then says, hey, you can now view it in your wallet. That's the end of the day. Go knock yourselves out. A lot of wallets do that. And I think that if we were to do it, we would have to basically find people who are excited about whatever that second chain is, get a business person on, and get a developer on, and get a community person on. So that's 3 people that we have to hire just to move over there. So I think that would be our approach. And we'll see if that holds true in the next, 2-3 years. We don't know the future, but yeah, for now we're really Hedera focused. We really think that there's a lot of potential on Hedera, and we're not looking elsewhere at the moment.
Love to hear it. Now, you are obviously very retail focused, but as I mentioned, there has been some touch points with enterprises. Are you going to remain pretty much just a retail wallet, or are you looking at some of those enterprise integrations?
Yeah, it's very interesting. We had a lot of chats, especially in 2022 and 2023, around enterprise people who are coming in with their ideas for their apps and saying, we are looking for solutions inside of the Hedera ecosystem for what we're building on the enterprise side. And we thought about it. We tried a little bit about building out those solutions that enterprise projects need. And I think that our team isn't really the kind to tackle exactly what those enterprises need, which is bespoke development, kind of like contracting out a dev shop to do what they need to do on that side. We're not really a contract team. However, enterprises do need at some point some kind of touch point to their users. And if there's an enterprise use case that has retail users, so people who are just regular customers, not like business users who have like a manager and a developer that is working with that enterprise. So retail users, then those retail users need some sort of interface to do what they need to do on the enterprise platform. And if that enterprise platform is interested in non-custodial solutions, then there's an opportunity for us to work there. So it really depends on how things go. But I do know that enterprise are very touchy about what kind of assets their users can hold and what kind of assets they're allowed to touch. And so non-custodial wallets have a sort of a challenge for them when it comes to regulations, when it comes to security. And in that sense, I think it's going to be a little bit of a wait and see to see if any enterprise will actually need a non-custodial wallet like Hashpack. That said, we are used every day by developers, and Hashpack is perfect for developers because you can just do anything you want on the Hedera ecosystem with an easy-to-use UI. You don't have to build out your own command line interface or your own little dApp for your developers in order to do simple things on the network. And that's where we've had a lot of success with enterprise customers, where they're like, we have a development team and they're building out an app, and this app will never touch retail users, but on the inside we're using Hashpack to test out the various things, to sign transactions and to send tokens and things like that, to prove that their proof of concept is workable. And then that's where enterprise finds a lot of value in having a very easy to use non-custodial wallet that just works. So that's very interesting to us. And what else? There's also just I think that the other thing is we might not work directly with enterprise in order to build their platforms, but I think there's a lot of value in just talking with enterprise and seeing what they're building and helping them on that journey. If they have issues with specific things on the network, we have a lot of experience that we can share, and that is also something that is very valuable. Enterprise comes in and they're like, what the heck is a mirror node? What the heck is a JSON RPC node? And that's something that we can answer very easily. So yeah, we have a lot of things that we touch with enterprise. Whether or not we'll see enterprise use cases adopt Hashpack is another thing, but definitely the door's open there.
Well, you guys seem like you stay nimble and you lean into what works. I think that's a winning strategy. May, thank you so much for everything you've done for the Hedera ecosystem, and I hope we can have you on again pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
So it doesn't seem like Hashpack can miss with their different strategies. They're doing a fantastic job. We actually have more for you today. We have ticketing coming out of Calaxy. We know how much different teams have been focused on NFT ticketing, and it looks like Calaxy is moving forward on that. Chad Weston, who's on their team, put out a tweet highlighting exactly how it would work. He says you could add a new event in your shop, for example, the Influencer Fight Club or Karate Combat. You add the details like images, a promo trailer, etc. Mint the NFTs, the quantity, the price, and yes, just like all other NFTs, you can have a resale royalty added in. Set up your QR code and then publish. The buyers will get airdropped the NFT tickets directly in the Calaxy app. And then all they have to do is show that QR code at the gate just like a regular ticket. The key points around this is there's buyer privacy. The royalty prevents issues around over-the-counter resales. There's going to be ticket price discovery, and that can be dynamic as you get closer to the event. Now, as mentioned, this makes tons of sense for things like Karate Combat, and Karate Combat got highlighted by a really big account out there, Spencer Noon. He was showing off that Karate Combat's recent event had over 109,000 participants. And finally, by popular demand, we have a marathon of an interview with Dovu. We caught up with Matt Smithies. He is their CTO. And I'll be honest, he was really candid with some of the challenges they've gone through and how they're breaking through some of those challenges. So let's check it out. Matt, welcome back. Thanks for giving us some time today.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Brandon. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise, always a pleasure on my side as well. So, Matt, it has been a little while since we've had you on. So, can you give us a recap on what Dovu and Dovu OS are?
Dovu OS. Dovu is obviously, everyone knows, we have the token, we're working on sustainability, but something we've been obviously pushing over the last year is this concept of an operation system for sustainability. Like, think of it almost like the vision of turnkey solutions that anyone can kind of come in and use and integrate with their own business. It turns out that the last year has been a lot of decisions have been made, some fruitful, some hard decisions, but that vision is slowly becoming a reality. And I know this sounds cryptic as heck, but I'm very excited to kind of share where we are now. And it's been a very tiring year, and the end is in sight for kind of our next product release, basically. But in short, like when we talk about OS or the operation system, we kind of think about it as a stack of different technologies that work together that people can plug into, almost like your Apple or your Windows. And we're just trying to chip away at these different elements of this kind of sustainability stack. Of course, the Guardian is in that. Hedera is in that. The tools that we're building are in that. Marketplaces are in that. But yeah.
No, we got it. And we have a bunch of community questions, and that's what we're going to go into for the rest of the day here. And you can take it in whatever direction you'd like. But we had some really good questions that came out from the community. People are obviously really engaged and curious about what you guys have going on. The first one comes from one punter who asked, what's the nature of the relationship between Dovu and the Hedera Guardian and their respective roles? Now, you were already touching on that. I've seen where Dovu fits into some of those line diagrams of how the Guardian ecosystem works, but I'm sure you're going to have some better insights.
I think it's probably worth talking about the history of the Guardian and how it's described and where it's been. And I hope that kind of provides some insight broader into the community, and also touching into this concept of like layer twos, which are becoming more interesting in the Hedera space with Karate Combat and everything. And so the Guardian as a system, it's terrible, their marketing. I don't care. It's terrible. They describe it as a policy workflow engine, but like, how is anyone supposed to understand what that is? But in crypto speak, the best kind of visual is that it's a layer two on Hedera, and the Guardian itself is a bit of code or like a repository or whatever, where anyone can deploy their own, and it allows you to basically design how credits should kind of flow or work together. So describe your actors, describe the data collected, who, like the identity, and at the end, credits are minted, and those credits will be on mainnet, and behind them, they're backed with this trust chain where you can actually see the provenance or all the data that goes into the credit. And that's listed on a combination of Hedera consensus and IPFS. And the reason why I'm saying it's more of an L2 these days is that with their recent upgrades around what they're calling the indexer service, it allows you to run the service and it would read all the other Guardians data that exists in this like network. And so you can say this token exists and it has this data, and this token it pulls down comes from a completely different Guardian, another part of the world. And with that kind of new integration, in my opinion, it enters more into the L2 arena rather than just a standalone piece of software. Obviously, there's no kind of validation around that in terms of like a validator network of, I'm getting too nerdy. Anyway, I guess I hope you get the idea. Now, when we're thinking about Dovu and thinking about or almost visualizing what you need to do in order to use the Guardian in an effective manner, you need to design what's called a policy or use a policy from their methodology library. And it is quite a challenge, and it is difficult to understand how the system works because it's an underlying primitive that provides so much flexibility that it's really difficult for any one person or any team to actually build something fast. And so what you need to do is pull down a methodology or design your own, and you need to build your entire use case that's focused on that particular policy. So if we think of a policy or a methodology, I feel like I'm going too deep already, but imagine a use case where you're tracking a farm and a farm is trying to record all the carbon that's being sequestered. And so that entire life cycle could be described as a single policy. And many companies just want to focus on a single use case, which is completely fine. And the power of the Guardian is that you can potentially issue tens, if not hundreds of millions of credits in dollar value just with a single policy. And you can just build towards that. But the problem comes when you want to build a flexible system that could work with many different policies or many different methodologies. And how do you get potentially enterprises or businesses involved who can't spend years working with the Guardian and want a turnkey solution? And a term that is thrown around a lot recently is, where do you meet the market where they're at? Like, how do you provide them a tool that takes away all the complexity and gives them a way to reason without going insane? I'm going to say this, and I don't mean this in a horrible way, but the last 3 years, we might cut this. The last 3 years working with the Guardian has been some of the most challenging technically for me in my entire career. And it is it's a nascent bit of software that's trying to find market fit. But what we've basically done over the last 12 months is to look at it and to basically figure out what are some sane defaults. What does every business need? What does a normal carbon offset or a normal sustainability project need? There's data collection, there's approvals, there's a claim. And after that point, then you can produce tokens, right? And so that's a simple flow. But what Dovu are doing, it's like a set of tools that can set up a Guardian that provides the ability to work with Guardian in new, easier, simpler ways through a brand new configuration language and allow people to reason and to work on it in a way that's reasonably scalable. One of the big issues we had last year, obviously everyone knows about our success in India and their goal of creating these ELV credits, these end-of-life credits. And so the aim there is to, how could you create a system or an economy around credits that not only recycle vehicles, but you have a mechanism for someone has a car, they can recycle, they can get a discount on a new car, or the actual recycling facilities can get paid for those credits. And so these credits are completely new. They haven't really existed like this before in the way that they're being built. And it turns out that it becomes a real circular economy that exists in India. Well, and I mean, it's huge. Like, as it stands, there are something like 20 million vehicles that are ready to be recycled in India. And this is a call for action from the government in order to push this recycling scheme to actually keep the needle going. Now, the reason why we've made a lot of difficult decisions over the last year, and the reason why I've probably been quite quiet over the last 6 months, is a year ago we got our credits in from MCM. And it was literally for a small amount, right? 800 credits. And this is gonna suck, obviously. Like, it breaks my heart to say this. But we minted the credits and basically the Guardian crashed and it failed miserably. And it isn't. There's nothing to do. There's nothing to do again. There's no qualms or no issues against the Guardian team themselves, but we're basically pushing it in a direction where it's not really designed to be pushed. Imagine a project normally where I see you have a farm or you have something else where you make a claim and you want to issue thousands of credits. The Guardian by default can deal with that normally because it will know how to mint many credits and it will do that. But when you're in a solution, when you're designing a solution where you have 800 assets, but every single asset needs to produce a certificate that's unique, you have this issue called an N+1 issue, where every time you push up a new vehicle to Guardian or the system, it goes up one by one. Imagine you're in a library, right? The same thing would be you pick up a book, you read the book. You pick up another book, you read a book. But the way the system worked is you pick up a book, we put it back, you just hold that book. You pick up a book, and so you'd end up, for every single request, you would end up with 800. And so it becomes impossible for any system to scale. And so we needed last year to basically redesign exactly how we work with Guardian and to actually make it work as a normal API would work, to basically unlock the promise of scale, to unlock the ability to mint tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of credits, and to do that in a way that we're confident about the system. So yeah, that's just a part of it. And the next part is this kind of the workflow engine. I'm happy to kind of move on to that later, but did you have any other questions? Because it's been it's been a year.
I know it sounds like that you had some challenges and you rose to the occasion and you addressed those challenges, and hopefully we can move forward well for that in the future. But Jerry had another one. We will get into some of that other stuff as well, because you did about a year ago, you moved from Ethereum over to Hedera. How would you rate your success around that, and what have been the advantages?
So I think holistically, you can think within Dovu, we have been a Hedera token since probably 2021 now. Back when initially we worked with Hashport, they took our token and they provided us the capability to basically bridge the token onto the network, which was exciting, which was great. And then last year, to kind of give folks more context, we decided to do a full-blown migration, a kind of reset on Hedera. And the reason for that was a historic bridge that we used, Polynetwork bridge. They unfortunately suffered from a fair few hacks. We can look it up, but I think it was something like a $50 million hack. It might be hundreds of millions of dollars of these lost tokens. And 3% of our supply were basically stolen off of this bridge. And the issue at the time isn't so much when Dovu is like a 3 or 4 or a $2 million cap, because 3% of that isn't a huge deal. But the issue is when you're hitting tens of millions or potentially beyond that, then that 3% becomes a real issue, because you don't want someone to basically remove liquidity who wrongly got your tokens. And so with that in mind, we were like, hey, let's just do the full-blown migration. That did obviously take a bit of time to do. And there is many positives, For start, airdropping tokens to EVM wallets, EVM accounts was probably one of the easiest bits of work we have done. If someone has an EVM wallet but not a Hedera account, you can basically dynamically create an account for them and send them value for free, right? With no association. And the really cool thing about that is you can have 10,000 EVM holders effectively, and then migrate to them in a matter of hours all of the value that all the tokens that they previously had. And that basically means that you don't have custody of EVM. It's done. The challenge is obviously on the Hedera side, because they need to associate your token, obviously. When we did that migration event, we tried to give as much notice as possible, the rationale why, and we did a DAO vote on it. And I believe it was unanimous probably close to like 95% of the community was like, hey, let's do this.
I do want to get back into the Dovu token. No Risk is Risk says, I'd like to hear how demand is created for the Dovu token. I understand it's required to interact with the Dovu OS, but to what extent? How many tokens are required to carry out a transaction? If an example could be used, that would be great.
One thing I will like kind of sing Hedera's praises of is their forefront and focus on enterprise, especially around HBAR as a unit of value to consume services. You know, fixed low cost in US dollars, you know, in order to use stuff. And so because we're trying to build these solutions, it makes sense for us to be inspired or steal, for lack of another word, this concept, right? And the plan for a while has always been, why don't we build the solutions on top of Hedera? And whatever it costs us on Hedera, we will, 5x or 10x, the cost of that to the consumer or the user. Because the delta at that point isn't just, let's say, minting a token, but it's using the services to mint a token. Because anyone on Hedera can mint a token, but what does that actually mean? But if you're providing services that will actually provide business value in terms of more transparency or the issuance of a carbon credit or a general environmental credit that can be sold, that has additional value. And so as an example, if we mint credits, then we could potentially, charge that as a mint, 10 cents or so, or however much the value is, depending on how the market tolerates that. And that would be the Dovu charge. However, it's also worth noting that many businesses won't buy tokens to use the service. And I don't think that's an issue. And the way around that is to basically take the US dollars and then take a portion of that to buy back tokens from the market. And so at that point, you can continue to make sure that staking is sustainable. And there's that flow of value going back into the liquidity pools. And so that's the way we view it. But like generally speaking, everything we get charged in Dovu, just pushing up the kind of the value, and then kind of hopefully that makes sense,
It does make sense. Now, for those companies that do want to pay directly with Dovu, is there going to be any kind of a discount compared to using fiat? And is it going to be paid in Dovu but priced in dollars like Hedera does to make sure that your finances work out?
So I think a lot of these things, I'll be completely honest, it's still about finding the prices that the market will react to positively. It's a startup world anyway, but it would always be priced in US dollars, and at that point we can take a portion and then kind of buy back in. I feel like I'm looping myself a little bit.
You answered the question, though.
Oh,
you said exactly. You answered what I was curious about, so that works.
Exactly.
Now, I do have one more question. It comes from one punter. We already got one from him. We have another one. He asked how much transaction volume you're responsible for now, and how do you expect to scale in the future?
One of the interesting things, and I'm quite proud of this, is because we took a completely ridiculous path with our staking, is that we're always probably top 10, maybe even top 5 daily transaction volume, just because we're pushing out 12,000, 15,000 transactions a day, something like that. And that's just basically token transfers, which is kind of sick because they're not consensus messages. Oh, sick burn. And for whatever reason, that works well. I really like that idea because especially the staking platform, because it's non-custodial, there's no smart contracts. It is overkill. And if we wanted to spend less money and we wanted a simpler solution, we would have definitely and certainly gone down the X, the X Dovu route or the X pack or the X, what is it, X source or whatever route. But we wanted a solution that obviously drove a bit of transactions and was as safe as possible outside of, token price or whatever, value, whatever we say, for a consumer. And so that's the direction we had. But I mean, with actual volume going forward, look, it's hard to kind of provide a reason for that. Oh, not a reason, but like to kind of provide a projection, because there are many community members out there that will grab onto what I say and try to extrapolate it out. But we have quite literally millions of credits in our pipeline. There are there are companies we're talking to who have hundreds of thousands of credits that are basically ready to go in mid-December. The problem is, while we can mint these things, the demand is the issue. You know, is it worth the cost to spend potentially, how much would that be? 10, 20 grand on transaction fees to mint 200,000 credits if they're not going to be bought at scale. So while we can push transactions, it's really about finding the right time where it makes sense for the supply and the demand side. And it's also worth noting that, you know, if you can even mint 20,000 credits, let's say you're trying to, let's say your price per mint is 10 cents. How do you justify a 20 grand spend to a supplier to do that? And so that's where potential deferred fees come in. And so you need a demand side to actually gobble those up so you can still get paid, you know? And so it's just like the volume can be there, but it's finding the right balance between like where the market is on both sides.
So I know that Wes has been working very hard, both on the supply side, setting up this entire ecosystem, and on the demand side. Now, most companies want to offset a fair amount of their carbon, so the demand should be almost unlimited, at least compared to where we are right now. But you're saying the demand actually coming in and getting their supply from the Guardian ecosystem. Do you think that we're doing the right steps and making the right steps to supply that demand for all the supplier to provide that demand for all the suppliers that we have out there?
So, okay, this is a question. This is a fantastic question. Over the last couple of years, there was an expectation of huge demand in the market, especially from the likes of, I think it was like Flow, who was initially, not Flow the blockchain, but Flow the project, the carbon offset project, who kind of was spawned from kind of the Adam Newman WeWork realm. And they initially raised tens of millions of dollars to create this new carbon offset marketplace. And I think it was last year they basically gave back all the funds because there was no demand in market, because with everything going on over the last like 3 years with COVID and budget cuts and the whole thing, the actual demand isn't really projected until 2026. And in addition to that, a lot of corporates historically had only been interested in buying credits from the likes of Vera or Gold Standard, so these big registries with the big brand and insurance. And so the Guardian holistically is trying to not only change and create a bit of technology which everyone sees the value of, but change the attitude of the market as well, you know. And so that is a challenge. Demand should come, but that is obviously a risk that affects not only Hedera and the Guardian, but everyone building on the Guardian. And so these are risks that we're basically trying to mitigate.
So hopefully that demand will materialize. Is there anything else you'd like to cover?
So one of my role at Dovu is to, like I said before, we've got to meet the market where it's at. We have to obviously see beyond what the market is and try to build things that we know the market will need before they even need them, anticipate the needs. And at the same time, you have to basically balance the risk. So like, what decisions can we make that will provide more value long term without just riding your tailcoats, you know? And so the big thing that we decided to do was to look at the entire Hedera ecosystem, look at the enterprises, try to understand what they're trying to build. And so obviously the focus right now is Guardian sustainability. And so what we have basically have done is designing this new workflow engine. Previously, the code name was like Paladin. Haskell came up with this concept or this idea of like Dovu cohesion. And so how can you provide a system that provides a configuration language which is easy to understand? How can you bring people in, get them to design their own kind of workflows and provide them a mechanism to tokenize with different actors? Now that's kind of weird because it's like anyone can do that. But I remember back in the day, probably March, we had the whole Archax issue, right? Archax are doing great work, don't get me wrong, but there was an unfortunate excitement around BlackRock and the tokenization of these money market funds. What if there was a solution that could cryptographically prove that BlackRock gave permission to Archax to mint the things? Then there would be absolutely no doubt of someone buying something and tokenizing it, right? Because imagine that for a second. Imagine if someone knew what the public key of BlackRock was and they signed something that connected to Archax, and Archax produced these money market funds. That would be irrefutable. And so that's basically what we're building, is this general workflow system for supply chain, for sustainability, for asset verification, for Hedera, for enterprises from the ground up. And the really cool thing here is that while it uses the Guardian and it can interface with the Guardian, it would be able to interface with any other tokenization engine. And it would be able to interface and mint credits from other networks. And so it's an interoperable layer 3 that would be able to talk to different actors from across different networks and take data, get things signed off, obviously issue through Guardian or issue through other networks, and then produce assets. And so this is the big vision, is that how can we create a general solution that is a workflow engine that any enterprise, if they wanted to, could take off the shelf and to map to their supply chain or their sustainability or their emissions or whatever they need, because this is it, Hedera. If you're an enterprise in Hedera, it's supply chain sustainability or something along those lines. And that's what we're basically building. And the first release of that will be in early December.
Well, Matt, it sounds like you've worked through the challenges that you've had and you're still bringing some fantastic products to market. I'm looking forward to that workflow engine that you have coming out. And thanks for coming on today. And with that, let's take a look at network analysis and get into the markets. This week, we've been mainly seeing transactions on the Hedera network in the single digits, but we have seen some nice spikes. That said, we haven't seen Atma come back online, so we're not seeing that 1,500 or 2,200 transactions per second, but we are seeing some decent background network utilization. In the past week, we had 28,000 accounts created, 227,000 NFT transfers, and 35,000 fungible token transfers. Looking at DeFi, the total value locked is still sitting at about $47 million. $43 million of that is on SaucerSwap, $2.3 million on HSuite, and $1.4 million on HeliSwap. Moving over to the crypto and HBAR markets, risk assets have been steadily falling today, which is taking its toll on crypto. Bitcoin is down 2.5% on the day and 4% on the week to just over $63,000. HBAR is down 5% on the day and 6.6% on the week to just under 5 cents. We're still range bound, and as long as we don't break 4.6 cents, I think we're in pretty good shape. So looking ahead to next week, we still don't have Shark Bites next week. We'll have Rob back the week after that, but we do have other interviews lined up, including Earthlings, Bonzo, and Headstarter, and I'm working on a few more. So we should have a pretty packed week next week. If there's anybody that's new to the Hedera ecosystem, go ahead and check out the Built on Hedera series that I have on my channel, and that's pretty much all we have. We'll see you next week.